Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here this Monday. Monday the 23rd of October, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. Glad to have you here. We're on the verge of a much wider war breaking out. All it would take is one little incident. The United States has warned them. Now, the United States has moved in two big flotillas, two big aircraft carriers into the area, and all of the armaments that go with these two big aircraft carriers just sitting off the coast of Israel. And they've warned them. Any little thing that were to happen that would strike America now at this point, and it would be on. Because they've been warned. Taking a look at this, it says Hamas says Israel refused to receive two hostages. I find this terribly hard to believe that it's true. I've never seen a case where they offer up hostages and they say, okay, here, have your hostages. And the other side says, no, we don't want them. I've never heard that before. So it says Israel calls it propaganda. So I believe that that's true. It's probably propaganda because I just can't conceive of that they wouldn't want them back. Anyway, moving on. The first emergency aid shipment has made its way into Gaza. Now, this weekend, I heard about it, and it says 20 trucks were coming in. 20 trucks. They carry, and so I said, oh, yeah, you know, they're going to get something to eat. So then I got figuring out in my head, math, and I said, okay, 20 trucks. They carry roughly 40,000 pounds per truck. So that's roughly 800,000 pounds. I said, oh, that's a lot. Then I got thinking to myself, but wait, there's 2.2 million people there. 800,000 pounds divided up into 2.2 million people works into less than a half a pound per person. So it's basically one cupful per person of whatever it is. I don't know what it is. Grain, maybe. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's one cupful per person. But they've been like 2 weeks without food and water. And so, one cupful per person? So then I seen this article this morning that says first emergency aid shipment to Gaza says totally insufficient, humanitarian agencies say. So yeah, I can see that. But when I did the math, then I realized, yeah, hey, you know, that is totally insufficient. Again, I never knew that 2 million people consume that much. That's a lot. And so I thought to myself, what would be sufficient? Well, instead of 20 truckloads, if they had 200 truckloads, that wouldn't be less than a half a pound per person. That would be over 5 pounds per person. If they had 200 truckloads. It takes a lot to cover that. What's going on in Gaza? Just saying. Intensifying Israeli strikes on Lebanon. Now, why is that important? You say, well, what's that got to do with it? Well, Lebanon's up to the north of Israel. And that's Hezbollah territory. And if Israel's striking Hezbollah territory, Hezbollah involvement might increase tremendously. And from what I understand, you know, Hezbollah, like, it's all linked in. A lot of these countries and stuff, you know, anyway, it could escalate the war. Let's just say that much. What's this article here? Oh, U.S. travel to Europe. Can't travel to Europe anymore. You just can't go and get on an airplane and head to Europe anymore. You gotta have prior approval. And what kind of hoops are you gonna have to go through in order to get that prior approval to travel? And will they make it so Europeans can't come here without prior approval? They're cutting us off. Slowly but surely, they're cutting us off. In the end, you won't even be able to leave your yard without prior approval. and it might be impossible to get it. Why they want to lock everybody down, and make it so that nobody can do anything. It can't travel anywhere, you can't do anything. You won't even be able to go to the grocery store in the end without a special permit. It says first you'll have to request permission. Facial and fingerprint scans they're going to do to you. And biometric data stored in enormous government databases. So, what's happening to the free world? Or what we used to call the free world? I'm not, I can just imagine what kind of creepy things that they're going to do if World War breaks out. What a bunch of creeps running the system. You can bet one thing, these rich people out there and stuff, they'll travel, there's just no problem for them. It's not going to create a problem for them because they are the ones who actually control it. The whole political scene now is controlled with payola. It's a corrupt system, totally corrupt. And it's going to start to impinge upon the people more and more and more. And it's going to squeeze the people. Squeeze them tighter and tighter and tighter until at some point the frog in the boiling water decides he wants to jump out and then he panics. Now, speaking about which, all these people out there are getting right on the edge now. They're right on the edge of getting frightened. The situation, a lot of them have been watching the situation with the war over there in Ukraine. They've been watching the situation with the war in the Middle East. Nothing really huge has happened yet. But they're watching it with interest and they're worried. A lot of people are worried. Now, these are the people that watch my channel are preppers and stuff, and they've gone beyond the worry. They're prepping already. They've been preparing for years. They've seen this thing coming for a long time. The people that watch my show have seen it coming for a long time. I've seen it coming for a long time. But a lot of the people out there have just been watching the situation in the background, haven't been doing anything yet. But what happens when something comes, which could come very soon now, that makes all of them really scared too? And then they all decide the prepping becomes the big thing. It becomes the new hula hoop. Everybody's into it. You go to the store and it'll be all cleaned out when America panics, and Canada panics, the United Kingdom panics, and everybody panics at a certain point when the situation starts to actually spiral out of control. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but we're right on the edge. And I've talked about this in a lot of shows. I call it a human stampede. It's a term I've given it. It's kind of a blanket term that describes when people start to lose it because they're frightened. That's what cattle do. They're out there and they're all alert. They're sitting out there, a big herd of cattle, and they're sitting out there in the field and they're all alert. All of a sudden, all it takes is a gunshot or something like that. Just some little thing to spook them all. Well, we're right at that spooking moment. We're at that moment where the general population out there is going to start to become aware rather quickly if this thing starts to escalate. Watch. Okay. Moving on, taking a look at the silver price today. $23.16. It's down 19 cents on the day so far. It's like I say, they're playing their little game with this, and they're still playing it. They're getting away with it. They'll get away with it and get away with it until they don't have the silver to get away with it anymore. Then the problem comes in. For them. Not for silver stackers. Oh, we gotta do gold. Gold today. Gold today is 1977. Oh, what a great year that was. I wish we were back in 1977. You guys never lived during that time? Oh my gosh, things were so much better than they are now. You know, I mean, you could go in. I remember the roast beef sandwiches I used to get at a little restaurant called Mano's. $1.99. The roast beef sandwich was over a foot long. It was just as wide, too. And there must have been 3 pounds of roast beef, sliced roast beef on it, all covered with hot gravy and everything else. Remember, I was a kid, I couldn't eat it all when I was a kid. You know, I was like 14 years old or something. And so, well, let's see, how old would I be? 1977. Yeah, about that age. Anyway, I used to like the Parmesan cheese, you know. And I get this big hot roast beef sandwich, and they'd have it was an Italian restaurant. They have this big bottle of Parmesan cheese sitting in the center of the table. I grabbed the Parmesan cheese and start shaking it. And I'd shake the whole bottle of my roast beef sandwich because I loved it. That hot Parmesan cheese kind of melt into the roast beef, you know. There's this one waitress one day. She come along there. You know, my parents were sitting at the table, and I always did the same thing. I'd shake like half a bottle of Parmesan cheese on top of the sandwich. And she come along and she says, "Sir, if you're going to use that much cheese, we're going to have to charge you for it." Just this one waitress, you know, I guess she was... You always run into people like that, don't you? Who, you know, you go to the McDonald's or whatever, you know, and you ask for a few ketchups or something. You meet one person once in a while who will say, if you're going to get so many ketchups, we're going to have to charge you for them. Or whatever. You know, I mean, that's the way it goes. Anyway, cryptocurrency today. Bitcoin is at 30,887 and it's going up. So it's looking good. It's catching a real good bid the last few days. You know, I mean, you know, Bitcoin wasn't very long ago, just a couple months ago, it was 17,000. It's nearly doubled again since then, till now. Ethereum's at 1683 and it's going up too. XRP's at 53 cents. So cryptos are really looking good right now. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 10 points at 33,116. Taking a look at our crude oil, it's down 86 cents at 87.22. Considering, you know, the world has a set amount of oil it uses each day. It uses exactly the same amount. If there's a little bit less oil coming in than the set amount the world uses, the price goes up. And if there's a little bit more oil coming in, the price goes down than what the world uses. Now, 20% of the world's oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. And if this war breaks out, they're going to cut off that strait. It's one of the first things that they'll do. 20% of the world's oil will be cut off. America sees that coming. America needs to increase production. They need to do it soon to make up for that loss of 20%. You know, and America's got the oil. It's deep. It's hard to get to. Most of it's out in the Permian oil basin. And most of it they have to frack in order to get it. But they've got that down to a science now, you know, guys. Now, bonds and rates today. We're looking at falling yields on the long end. We're looking at a 10-year at 4.88 and a U.S. 30-year at 5.02. Now, they were up earlier in the day. Now they fell back. And taking a look at the U.S. dollar index today, at 105.91 on the U.S. dollar index. And the dollar is going down today. What story did I have here? Just news, I guess, there. China is... Oh, here's a story I wanted to follow today, but I don't think I have. About the Philippines. You know, this one of the most tightly contested areas in the world right now is the South China Sea. Tremendous reserves of minerals and stuff there. And China and the Philippines are having a sea collision row. Evidently, they're ramming ships or whatever. You know, I mean, this is close to the area around Taiwan over there. This is the Pacific, you know, and it's a hotbed for war developing as well. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great afternoon. Bye bye.